I think people tend to fail to really discuss, let's say, the impact of being respectful when you do business, coming up with like win-win-win-win-win situations for everyone, because the way we do business is a big reflection of our personalities.
Welcome to Hustleshare, the podcast that features the daily grinds of unique hustlers around the world to show not our differences, but that our hustles are very much alike. Now here's your host, Ronster Yong.
Welcome to the very first episode of Hustleshare. My name is Ronster and I am your host. For the very first episode that we have here, we are going to be having Mr. Magellan Fetalino. He is going to talk about the hustle of a tech startup founder. So just to give you a little bit of a tidbit about Magellan, he's not the Spanish conquistador that is widely believed to have discovered that the earth is not flat. So if you're looking forward to hear that, I'm sorry, but this is not the episode for you. He's actually a founder and CEO of Acudeen Technologies, an online peer-to-peer marketplace for receivable discounting in the Philippines. They are the winner of SeedStars Global's 2017 and Founder Institute's Best Global Fintech in 2017, and regarded by the IDC as one of the top 10 fastest growing fintechs in the Philippines. So as you can see, this guy is loaded. He's raised millions and millions of dollars, and he's just in his late 20s. So the thing that we want to show here today is that it doesn't take superhuman efforts just to be able to launch your own fintech startup. And what we want to discuss here in this show is how he got to his journey and what are the things he does and how he literally does his hustle on a day-to-day basis. We're also going to be talking about his motivations, his history, and the most important thing is we're going to find out the mystery behind his name. So if you want to know more, please stick around and we're going to begin the show right now. Welcome to Hustleshare. And again, we have our very first guest, a very good friend of mine. We go way back.
Way back.
Yes, way back. So our very first guest is Magellan Fetalino. Mags, welcome to the show.
Hey Ron, how are you, buddy?
Not too shabby. Again, thanks for having the time despite of your very busy schedule. What I want to show for is just go right into the jugular and talk about you and your startup, Acudeen. So for the benefit of those people who are not aware of what Acudeen is, can you just talk to us about what Acudeen is and what you guys do?
So Acudeen, we're essentially a fintech company, and what we do is we facilitate receivable discounting. In like simple terms, how it works is if let's say you are a small business and you have a deal with let's say a company, but the company tells you, hey, you know what? I'm gonna pay you 90 days. You can actually use our facility, use our platform, and sell your receivable so that you don't have to wait for 90 days.
Absolutely. And I myself, us in Chatbot, in our first year, we were a suki, and I can't remember how many times Acudeen bailed us out because I actually read this very interesting stat of an article that you posted recently that 90% or 80% of people don't pay on time, or companies here in the Philippines don't pay on time.
It's actually 92%.
92.
Because only 8% of companies in the Philippines pay on time.
That's why if you're a small company, you can't tell your guys, sorry, we don't have payroll money because client X or client Y doesn't have the money to pay. That's crazy.
Yeah. Yep.
How did you get that stat? I'm just very curious on how. That's crazy. I didn't because I till now, even though we've gotten acquired and whatnot, our biggest pain point. You have a very healthy funnel, but there's a choke point in the middle, and it's stuck in AR. AR, for those who are not familiar, it's account receivable. It's not money in the bank. It's a promise that's gonna be there, but they never pay on time. So how did that come about?
Well, if you would look at the number, 8%, right? I think this one of the key things about Filipinos, it's somehow embedded in our culture to not really do things on time.
Yeah.
And to the point that even in business or even in anything that we do, even a social activity, we're usually late. So it's gonna be hard to solve that issue unless there's some sort of a disciplinary
True.
uh,
Or you
action.
should get penalized for it.
Exactly.
And whatnot.
But right now, I mean, if you just talk about the Filipino culture,
Yeah.
Filipino time means like,
Manana.
there you
Right
go.
there.
If you can delay something, you can.
Yes.
You should.
Yes. It's a shame, but that's the reality of what it is. So okay, Max, just talk about a little bit on what forced you to. I mean, what caused you to start this. Maybe talk about how you started. I'm pretty sure you in corporate before, and then like you had an epiphany, like I got to do something about this. Can you guys talk about a little bit on how that happened?
For sure. So, I personally started Acudeen because I was in supply chain.
Oh, okay.
I handled the supply chain of our family business before I did Acudeen.
This was prior to you circumventing the whole world and putting your cross in Cebu?
Well, a bit after that, because I was in 1521, and this is more of the new millennium kind of stuff. So in our family business, I handled supply chain. So I was the guy dealing with our clients, which were mostly pharmaceutical companies.
Oh man.
And just imagine dealing with like big companies. They will impose payment terms on you.
Yes, and then you have to go through all these accreditation, which takes forever.
God. Oh, yeah.
I don't even know why they need that, to be honest. Sometimes, right? But again, I'm not trying to shit on anyone's here, but I'm just trying to make sense that we can probably automate that thing in a day or two if we just really wanted to.
Absolutely, but this was like pre-tech.
Yeah.
This was a pre-tech period, and I remember there was even a point in time we were all wondering, we had such big deals from these companies, and yet there were moments on certain months wherein we had no cash in the bank.
Oh my god.
Imagine thinking about the next payroll, like 30th of the month,
which happens twice a month, you know.
Twice
so you only
a month,
get a week rest, and then that shit haunts you again.
Exactly. Right? So you solve one payroll period, and then after a few weeks, oh my god, you have to think about it again.
Here we go again.
So
like Groundhog Day.
Exactly. So imagine, you're a small company, you have to pay your employees, and yet your clients would only pay you after 90, 120 days.
Yeah.
Just imagine the gap in cash flow for a small business. So this became like, so I think it's very important in the scheme of Acudeen that I, as the founder, experienced the pain point myself.
I agree.
Because it became like that, it was the biggest drive for me to really come up with a solution.
You scratch your own itch.
There you go.
So yeah, similar to, again, with us, in like my very first startup, I just couldn't get in the cloud. That's why I put a fucking website.
It always starts with
that. You know, it's your own itch. Now, what did you do at first? Because of course there's always that idea. Okay, I wanted to solve this. This is such a hassle. What did you do to act upon that? Did you have the right team? Did you have everything that you needed, or how did you take that leap from what you were doing in supply chain to being a tech entrepreneur?
Well, obviously, when I had the epiphany to work on this problem, I was alone. I didn't know anyone who could help me come up with a solution. So, and back then I didn't know anything about tech.
Nobody did.
like the only code I know is how to put hello world in HTML. That's it. Nothing. I know nothing about tech. So all this blockchain stuff and all of that. Wala yan.
Only thing we did in online was go to two sites, either YouPorn or UJizz. That's or if you have something.
No, I do other sites.
Okay.
So, the first thing I did was to just check out how big is this problem.
Yeah.
So I did a lot of research. I looked at how SMEs were solving it back then, and I realized that the problem of payments, late payments, is not the only problem that SMEs have.
Yeah.
There's a bigger problem wherein, okay, you're an SME, you don't really have much assets, you have a promising business, so you need money.
Yep.
And we saw that a lot of these SMEs don't have access to financing.
True.
So
banks are difficult.
exactly,
Right?
exactly. So I felt the need to really bridge that gap because SMEs had a lot of SMEs were rich with receivables as an asset, but they can't use it as some sort to get any sort of financing.
Yeah.
So I tried to look at the space and how big it is, and eureka moment. Okay, this is worth
Boom.
solving.
So
Boom.
I had something similar. So there was really, describe it to me, like when you had that eureka, like shit, and you felt like it was like you felt like it's like an out of body experience.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Fuck, I'm onto
It's something
something
like,
here.
fuck.
Yeah.
Am I allowed to say that?
No, you can you can say all the worst shit here.
That's how you feel like you're in cloud nine.
Yes.
Fuck. You should do this.
Yes.
So there's a lot of excitement.
Yes.
To the point. So this is how I was able to meet the right people.
Yeah.
Because I was so excited to
Right.
do something about it that I just kept, every time I meet someone, all I talk about was
Your idea.
my idea.
Yes.
I was so addicted.
Were
to
you
it.
scared of telling people about your idea? Just, that's a first timers. One of the things that first timers like, you know what, I don't want to say too much because people might steal my idea. Were you scared? And what did you do to at least to realize that, you know what, I can talk about this all day, but if we can't have the same drive or passion that I did, whatever, So were you scared in that aspect?
At that point, I was not.
Okay.
And I think
Wow.
this stems from, we were both educated entrepreneurs.
Yes.
I mean, we took the program since college. By the way, Ron is my upper batch.
Yes, shout out to UST though.
Yeah, we're Thamashan entrepreneurs.
Yes. Took up entrepreneurship, though that program still needs a little bit of work in terms of improvement. But hey, you got two niggas out there already who's already doing it. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, so taking that program, I think I was, and I can say the same for you. We were used to just sharing ideas without the fear of getting copied, because I think the mindset behind that was, if you're an entrepreneur, if somebody copies you, and
that's a compliment.
It's a compliment.
Yes.
And as long as you know what you're doing, and as long as you've done it properly, I mean, there's nothing to fear of being.
That's very true. At least here on a personal anecdote in Chatbot, we started Chatbot PH, and every time I talk about, I can create a chatbot, whatever. Like, dude, yeah, go ahead. Just I appreciate that there's a lot of fish in the sea. That means there's someone actually sees what I do.
Exactly.
It's
some sort of validation.
Correct. It's a complete opposite of what I did in Party File. It's weird because it's just like, oh, that's a great idea, but if you look at your surroundings, if you look at the back, how many are we out there?
Right.
There's only one or two, and they're not doing well. That means you're into. That's already a bad sign. That even though people see what you see, but if there's really no money in there, then again, we can talk about it in a separate episode and whatnot. But
Absolutely.
yeah, that was going back to what you were saying. So you got to that point. You were talking about your ideas. What was next for you?
So I was not familiar with the startup world back then.
Yep.
So the first thing I did was to just check out what's happening. So
Okay.
that's when I started to learn about all of these programs like Founder Institute,
FI, right?
like Blanche Garage.
Yep.
So, so after I somehow have some sort of validation, after getting that, I joined Founder Institute
Yes.
here in Manila.
Shout out FI.
FI.
There's a new batch coming up. If you guys,
Yeah.
no, and I again, I might be biased, so don't take my word for it. But I've looked at a lot of how these incubators, accelerators come in. The program that FI forces you to do is proven. The type of startups it was able to create. Oh my God, it's not even funny. Some
Absolutely.
startups, I mean, incubators like I've been in one. If you look at the aftermath, all of us are dead.
Yeah.
Or in our second startup already, right? It's weird, but yeah, FI, it's very good.
Absolutely. And one thing I like about that program is that it's good for entrepreneurs who has not started anything yet.
Yes.
Diba? It gives you the
Complete
perfect foundation.
neophytes.
Exactly.
Right.
Because before taking that program, I was trained the traditional way.
Yes.
So like you
Business
grow
plan.
20, 30% year per year, that's good. You have this margins, you're good.
Yep.
You create a 50-page business plan.
Oh my God.
Perfect. Diba? But what Founder Institute really gave me was some sort of a awakening na,
Yes.
oh wow, so this is how it's done today.
Yes.
So there's another way to like go about things, and if you're in the tech space, there's actually an opportunity to grow way faster.
Okay. Was that a humbling experience for you? I mean,
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, you go to college, diba? And then
Right.
I took my masters,
right.
and you learn all of these concepts, and then all of a sudden, oh wow, so
Boom.
Apparently-
Everything out the window.
exactly.
Oh.
Apparently, not everything I learned
Yes.
is necessarily how you should do it.
Correct. Especially if you do well in what you do, it's quite
yeah,
hard to let go of. Like, for example, if you're a top salesman or a top
Absolutely.
marketer.
And I think that's one skill that a lot of good entrepreneurs have. They are aware
Right.
that things change.
Yeah.
That the society we are in naturally evolves and
Correct.
advances.
Yes.
So they have a lot of the good entrepreneurs I know. They have the capacity to unlearn things,
Yes.
unlearn and learn something new.
That is very interesting. That's true. Now, we'll have a quick break for the moment, and after the break, what we'll be talking about is we'll do a deep dive on how Mags continued his journey, and we'll talk about his leadership style and more in-depth stuff about how you can create a startup like an Acudeen moving forward.
Awesome.
More of us after the break. Hey, do you guys like what you're hearing so far? If you do, please don't forget to show us some love and subscribe to Hustleshare on your favorite podcast app. You can listen to us on Spotify, iTunes, Google Podcasts, and all the other major podcast apps. Also, if you want to get in touch with us and suggest the next hustlers you want to hear in the show, please do message us on our chatbot on Messenger. Just search Hustleshare or go to m.me/Hustleshare, powered by ChatbotPH. And lastly, if you want to know more about the details and resources we discussed during each episode, please go to our show notes at hustleshare.com. Cool? All right, back to the show. And we're back. We're still with Magellan, the founder of Acudeen. So before the break, we talked about what we're going to be discussing in this segment, where we're going to do a deep dive of what Magellan went through. So prior to the break, we talked about his background and whatnot. Now we're going to talk about his current grind, his current hustle. So Max, what I want to first understand is, what's your leadership style? How do you have a team of 60 now? Is that correct?
Yeah,
That's
is correct.
a ton of people.
That is a lot of people.
Yeah, and what's your leadership style? What are the things that you do on a daily basis to keep in touch of everything?
Well, number one, it's very important for me to work with people I like to work with. So I'm very, very careful with hiring.
Okay.
So, because imagine having one poisonous person inside their
Yes.
organization. That's gonna have a massive impact on efficiency.
Absolutely. And it's just like the old saying, the old adage, one bad apple will kill
Absolutely.
the rest. Right?
So in regards to that, I always make it a point that when a person or a new guy enters the organization, he understands the mission,
Okay.
the vision of the company, and the company culture.
Got it. How do you define that? So, for example, in chatbot, in the first, we have two interviews usually. First interview is we have this no snowflake, what you call it, no snowflake rule, and we ask a certain type of question. If you're a snowflake and you're not a wolf and you're a sheep, then you're not gonna make it past the first interview. For that, do you guys have something similar, or what do you guys look for in the first screening?
So, well, in our case, we also have that kind. We have that kind of test, but it's not the first one. The first one would always would always be about your technical capabilities. We just want skill. Okay. So first, before we even talk about culture, let's see: are you the right guy for the job? Can you do the role? Once you get through that, that's the time we talk about culture. Okay. So we start asking. It's not really trivial questions, but more of like, some of the question goes like this: like, what would you do when when there's two apples left and you hear the person behind you that he's also gonna buy an apple, but you need two apples. So what do you do in that scenario?
So character defining.
Exactly. Okay. So it's very important for us because if we see that we were all respectful in the company. Okay. So if we see an ounce of like disrespectfulness,
got it.
Probably will pass on you, even if you're like the most qualified person. Yeah.
Fair enough. That's very good, and especially in startups too, tech startups to be specific. The first few hires that you get, it's just like your apostles. You're just like your fucking Jesus, right?
Exactly.
And if you have Judases in the fucking thing, then dude, you're gonna die. These people are gonna stab you.
You're gonna be crucifixed, man.
Exactly.
There you go.
Right? You're dead. Right? Well, so you want to have the right apostles around you. I totally agree. Yeah. Now, what's your, like, you said you mentioned about the mission and the vision. Like, what are the rules or what are the non-negotiables that you have when running your team?
Number one, in terms of non-negotiables, I think the key one is respect. Respect. The way we look at the people in the workplace is we see each other as like a family. Got it. And you will feel that. You will feel that when you meet the people in our organization. People share their food. They don't. There's no politics inside.
No gossiping.
No gossiping. And if, of course, it would be inevitable to have some conflicts, we immediately resolve
Nip it in the bud right away.
Exactly, right away. So our HR team has certain procedures to make sure that happens.
That is awesome.
So I think it's the character. The character fit.
Anything. And that's true because they say that in startups you have to run it not just like a normal business. It's supposed to be a cult.
Yes,
it's like a cult, right? It is. Now, you have to have a little bit of a blind faith towards a common goal because you don't even know if what you're doing is actually a valid business yet. So you have to sell them on that.
Exactly.
Correct.
So they really have to buy into the vision, and it's the entrepreneur, it's the founder's role to make that happen.
And nobody else. I mean, the rest will evangelize it. But the 10 commandments will come from you.
You have to be Moses.
Yeah. Like, go
actually, not Moses even. You have to be Yahweh. You have to be God.
Praise to you. Okay, but Mags, I'm curious also about what's your hacks like? For example, I can't run my team without Slack. That's my like, I see everything through that. If nobody's talking to Slack, I get antsy. Like, I start calling people, what the fuck is going on? Like, why is it like this? Blah, blah. So for you guys, what's your check and balance to make sure that everything is working?
We have this system called OKRs,
OKRs.
Objective Key Results, and so we make sure everybody's aligned with the annual goals. Actually, the long-term goals.
So you do your OKRs on an annual basis.
Annual basis. And then we like granulize that to monthly and then weekly.
Okay.
So every time I meet my team, it's just to check whether we're meeting the OKRs or not. So at least if, let's say we are, then we might adjust the targets higher.
Got it.
But if we're not hitting it, we will somehow like do some push or like rally the troops.
Got it.
To make sure we get to where we want to be.
Okay, now in terms of OKRs, it's all about metrics, right? You know,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
OKRs are usually binary when you measure it 0 or 1, but nobody gets 1 because nobody gets 0 either.
Exactly,
You know,
yeah.
it's always in between 0 point whatever. In Acudeen, what are the metrics? Because there's so many in tech. Sometimes we get overwhelmed too much with too many
Absolutely.
metrics and too much data out there.
Measuring everything.
Yeah,
we can,
and then
diba?
you don't really need to, because you can only measure so much. And if
Exactly.
you're gonna try to you know, throw stones at every dog that barks, then you lose focus.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
For Acudeen, at least, and for you, what are the key metrics that you only like to measure? That at the end of the day, if shit hits the fan, I look at this, and this is how I'll know if my business is doing well or not.
So this is where you have to go back to the mission and the vision of the company.
Okay.
Your company goals need to be aligned to it. So in our case, priority is always the number of SMEs we help.
Unique.
Yeah, unique.
Okay.
So we have this 2025 vision of like helping over 1 million SMEs around the region.
Wow.
And that number is quite big for SMEs.
Correct.
Diba? So everything else, all the other metrics that we measure are in support to make sure we hit this number.
Got it. That's great, because if you don't hit 1 million, then you're not really making an impact as a tech startup. Technically.
Not just a tech startup, but
Right.
as an organization.
Wow, that's embedded in every single guy that you talk to. There's like, okay, what's your vision? Like, 1 million, Magellan, 1 million.
Yeah, ganon. Para kang addict, di ba? 1 million. Every conference you go to, 1 million SMEs, 1 million SMEs. Ako din.
Yeah. Where are you at right now? Just you don't have to be sort of ballpark figure. How far out are you from 1 million?
We're very far.
Yeah.
Very far. And I think that's one thing about attaching a target to an organization. And,
Yeah.
When you if you're gonna like aim for something, you might as well aim for something that's hard to do.
Yeah.
So
you
that
have
it's
to be
worth doing.
uncomfortable with
You have to
your
be
borderline crazy.
absolutely.
Yeah.
If not crazy, di ba?
Yeah.
So we're still far from the target.
Yeah.
But one thing I like about our team is that we've actually mapped out. We've mapped out how we're gonna get there by 2025.
Wow. That's important because, you know, as you go through that, you just need to know where your North Star is.
Absolutely.
And then you
diba?
build the ladder step by
Exactly.
fucking step with your team.
Exactly.
You don't know the fucking game plan because you've never been there anyway.
Exactly.
Right? So,
And this is where you need to be strategic, because the way you like run the business, diba? You set a goal like that. As a startup, as you mentioned,
right.
you don't know what's the right or the wrong way to do it. You're trying to figure it out. So the way we formed and structured our organization is very agile. Diba?
Wow, that's great.
So inside the organization, if we make something, we don't really make a perfect version of something.
Yep.
Just to test it out.
As long
Just
as
to
it
test-
works.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then if it works, then that's the time we invest on it. If it doesn't, we didn't lose much.
Got it. Now I'm we'll deviate a little bit from the Acudeen stuff and talk about you more as a person and as an entrepreneur, right? Max, I'm curious about what's your why, because like for me, when I started Party Pal, like 9-10 years ago, it was even called Guest List. The only thing I wanted so bad was I wanted to buy my mom a house, because
Wow. I do anything for my mom.
Yeah, like that's it. That's my id. It's ingrained in my subconscious that I will not stop until I get that shit done, right? And whatever it takes, I get that. What was your motivation? Because at the end of the day, shit will always happen. That's a curse of an entrepreneur too. An employee. So normal team members will always have someone to look out after them. Us, we have investors, we have our boardroom, but when it comes to it all, when all those things are gone, you're alone.
Absolutely.
And you don't have anyone else to pick yourself up, and you just
Absolutely.
How do you what is your why, and in when you're down in the dumps and when you're in those stages, how do you bounce back up?
My why is legacy.
Okay.
That's my why. I grew up coming from a lower middle class family, and we weren't. My parents really worked hard to make sure I get the right education. I was able to go to really good schools, even if sometimes they're struggling.
Yes.
Even if sometimes.
Yeah, they don't. That's the hustle.
I see my mom selling like fish, yung rellenong bangus.
Yeah.
She's selling rellenong bangus to her co-parents in my school,
Right.
just so she could have something to
Back
pay the
then, we
tuition fee.
felt that was normal, but now when we're on our grind, dude, that's embarrassing to do.
Absolutely.
I'm not shitting on anyone, but you have to have swallow a lot of pride to do
they
that.
They swallowed their pride
for
the greater good.
Correct.
And the greater good was to see their kids, us, have a better life than them. So I think that experience had a massive impact in my mindset, to the point that if I'm gonna leave this earth, I want to make sure I create an impact that people will not forget.
Okay.
In a positive way.
Yeah, like you want to have that little dent in there.
Maybe not even little, maybe something quite big.
Like a cross in Cebu.
Like a cross in Cebu. Diba?
Yeah.
A cross in Cebu with my name on it.
Yes.
Magellan's Cross.
I'm just curious too. For those people, let's just it's getting a little too serious. How the fuck did you become Magellan? Your real name is Mario Jordan. It's pretty dope too, but how the hell
Nobody knows that my name is Mario Jordan, by the way. Nowadays.
Only UST people.
Only
What's
UST
up?
peeps, Tomasino.
Yes.
So, well, I studied Spanish after USD. I went to...
after? I thought you were like walking around in US saying, hey, hola.
Hola, me llamo Magellan. But no. I studied Spanish in Instituto Cervantes.
Ah, nice.
Because after graduation, I worked in the Senate of the Philippines.
Dude, are you allowed to like talk about?
Yeah. I used to work for the office of Senator Lacson.
Wow. Okay.
Senator Panfilo Lacson.
Yeah.
Idol
Still
ko
there?
yan. Yeah. My idol, di ba? Learned a lot of in terms of discipline. I learned a lot from him. So, my intention then was to actually take foreign service.
Wow. Okay.
So, after stepping into the Senate, DFA dapat, di ba? But so that's why I studied Spanish. So the thing is, my friends from college, my friends from college.
Yep.
They're a bit.
Dude, we were in the same section.
Yeah.
There's only two sections in just to give you a side note. There's only two sections in UST entrepreneurship. TE1, which is considered like the creme de la creme.
Yeah.
And TE2 are like the afterthoughts, or like diamonds in the rough. We both come from the diamonds in the rough. The TE ones, I haven't really encountered anything.
Exactly. Yeah.
So again, that you have to be, and that's I also saw that great type A students usually don't succeed. You have to be borderline in that level where you have a good mix.
Crazy. Exactly.
Yes,
and
people skills.
Exactly.
You don't. You're like a rebel by default, and you take that on as well.
Exactly.
So you became Magellan through that. Who gave you that name?
It's my college friends. So I was studying Spanish, and so minsan I would practice on them. Hola, ¿qué tal? Di ba? Mi amor, ¿qué tal? So, bigla na lang one of my friends, tumigil ka nga, Magellan.
Oh my God.
So, and then it's stuck. Dude, Magellan, that sounds great. I love that name.
Same with Ronster. My name is like Ronster the party monster.
There you go.
So it's like, okay, I'm in the party business before, and it just stuck. I didn't want to get rid of it because there's too many Rons out there.
Exactly.
Their Ron host is like, oh no, I'm not that Ron. Ron host is
not the
like,
crypto guy.
Yeah, but he's like OG, like, big time unicorn stuff.
Shout out to Ron, by the way.
Congrats. Yes. Oh my god.
Damn, go Jack, man.
Yes.
Holy shit.
No, that's a validation of how big the opportunities in the Philippines. So again, going to Magellan and whatnot. But before we're gonna go to a deeper dive of how Magellan copes with stress and everything else in between, and what the next tips are if you're trying to get into the startup industry. You'll learn from one of the best in the best, one of the most promising startup entrepreneurs here in the Philippines. More of that after the break.
Effective automation is the best way for businesses to stay competitive. And having a chatbot for your business lets you easily automate and optimize sales, marketing, and customer service in the digital age. Chatbot PH will build, train, maintain, and market your chatbot across all messaging platforms. Our team uses the latest AI technologies to enable you to better serve customers 24/7, 365. Set a meeting with us today. Message us now at m.me/chatbotph.
And we're back with Magellan for the last part of the show. Mags, how are you doing so far?
Good.
Doing not so good? Okay.
Are you sure you want this to be the last one? We can extend.
This is just our first one.
Okay, there you go.
But we can do more. The last thing we want to do is bore these people out. This is their first guesting. I'm pretty sure this is not going to be the last. We're going to have you back here again.
There you go.
But Mags, what I wanted to discuss in this next segment is all entrepreneurs needed guidance at first.
Oh, yeah.
We needed mentorship. For me, my biggest influence is Joji Azulin, which is also a vital part of
Big Boss Joji.
Yeah, shout out my startup dad. And the people that have helped, just look around. How many people have come through Joji as a guy? The numbers speak for itself. Who was that for you? Who was your big mentor, and what were the key things you learned from that mentor?
It's funny you ask this question because just a couple of days ago, I posted an article about mentorship and like getting the right mentor for your business. And in my case, I think the biggest influencer, my biggest influence in the way I do business is JJ Atencio, who is the former CEO of 8990 Holdings.
Yes.
And now the chairman of my company, Acudeen.
Absolutely, yes. So what are the key things that JJ helped mold you in? I mean, you said you came in raw. After FI, you what was that stage? But before that, let's just talk about what were the key things that JJ taught you, or you were able to learn from JJ.
Well, JJ really gave a lot of insights on like good business practices.
Okay.
I think people tend to fail to really discuss like let's say the impact of being respectful when you do business, coming up with like win situations for everyone, because the way we do business is a big reflection of our personalities, diba? And I'm just very thankful that because of JJ, my mindset towards business, instead of like this kill mindset, was like converted to like, let's work together mindset. Let's have like a win scenario for all of the.
Just curious, how did you meet JJ? So after FI, was he part of your clique or part of your network already?
Actually, before FI.
Okay.
I already know JJ before FI because we were both shareholders in another company, which is called the Global Filipino Investors.
He was not one of those dudes that didn't pay you on time. Okay,
Absolutely not. You know what? Funny you said that, because one of JJ's key principles, and I got this from him.
Yeah.
If you promise to pay in 30, pay in 25.
Absolutely.
So what does that mean, diba? He's the only guy in the real estate industry who paid his suppliers on time. To the point. To the point that when we were doing our MVP in Acudeen,
Yeah.
so we offered our product to all of their suppliers. Nobody wanted to sell. Nobody wanted to sell the receivables because all of them were commenting, "Oh, we don't need to sell. JJ pays us on time."
Wrong market.
Wrong market.
So you just basically wait. So your main validation. Do you work with JJ? Okay, I'm not gonna work
Okay,
with
pass.
JJ. You're gonna be-
Because he just pays everyone on time.
Wow.
So it's sabi ko, wow, this is amazing. I mean, this is
That's
how
rare
you,
too. Very,
very
rare.
rare. And this is how you win people.
True.
So at the end of the day, diba, this is also coming from him. Business is about people.
Yep.
You build relationships with people. So more than the technology, more than the strategy, and more than your product,
Yeah.
the most important aspect of business is people.
Abs-fucking-lutely. Amen, JJ. Amen. Woo, woo, preach. No, okay. So, from that point, right? So you did FI, you had JJ, and let's call a spade, all right? Magellan just happens to be one of those rare diamonds. You said we're diamonds in the rough. This guy is a fucking pink diamond out there that has been able to raise so much money. So far, Mags is just in broad numbers and whatnot. How much have you guys raised for Acudeen?
Well, you can
Like
think-
in fiat
okay.
and in crypto. So there's two things that you
Yeah.
guys do, right?
But I think just to simplify things, so we've raised different manners, so
Right.
equity, debt, but quite significant. Let's just say it's in the tens of millions.
We're
combined.
talking about dollars, by the way,
Dollars,
guys.
yeah.
We're not talking about pesos, right? Dollars. And in the Philippines, that's very, very rare. For you to be able to come up with a business model that people are going to bet on. You've had banks, you've had crypto,
Yeah.
you've had... That's more than amazing.
Thank you. Although it's also unfair to really like to use that as a metric because our business is all about fundraising.
No, I totally understand. But fundraising for people to believe that you're actually doing in the lending and debt business.
Exactly.
To
yes,
put
yes,
and
yes,
gamble their hard-earned money, whatever it may come, if for a hedge fund or whatever.
Absolutely.
To put that in your system, again, says a lot about how you guys do business. And probably that comes all the way back to what JJ
Exactly.
instilled on you.
There you
Paying
go.
people on time. and
Exactly.
what. I just hope that 92% of the businesses around the
Oh my God.
Philippines
I hope they're listening.
yeah, we'll listen to
Please
JJ.
pay on time. Diba? If you promise to pay in 30, pay in 25. Diba?
Or do 24 again then. We
Or
have payroll to do.
29 will do. Diba? Just pay on fucking time.
And not make us go to your fucking treasury department, wait our whole day. You know, some
Exactly.
people, all they do, the people hired just fucking wait all day to
Exactly.
do that. Well, like, what a waste of human intellect. Anyway, we're not ranting here. Okay, back to our...
We're
back to
giving
our-
tips. We're giving
Yeah.
tips.
How was that for you? From transitioning, you guys grew very fast. When did you start this?
2016.
2016. We're just in the third year.
Third
in.
year, bro. Yeah.
Holy God! Like
Yeah.
that's very fast, and that's again the beauty about doing tech startups.
Absolutely.
You know, it's a startup when you're experiencing exponential growth, not the 30% to 20%.
Exactly.
It's a hockey stick out there.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, how did that change from you? What are the things that changed in terms of how you go through your daily routine, or at least walk us through your daily routine? How do you start your day? What are the key crucial things that you go through that prepare you for the daily grind?
So, as you grow and grow and grow, you'd think that things become simpler and easier because you get to pass on a lot of the work. But the reality of it is that no, it just gets...
You just get better too.
You get better.
Yeah, you level
but,
up.
But the challenges also become
Yeah.
bigger.
If you killed a small guinea pig,
Yeah.
you're be prepared to kill a fucking triceratops next week.
Exactly.
Because
Or
that's
a
what's coming.
Fucking elephant, di ba?
Yeah.
Ganon, di ba? Literally an elephant in the room.
Yes.
Yeah? So, I think one of the things that really changed, especially with me as a person, was on the way I manage the stress.
Yes. So that is amazing. And
Yeah.
startup founders don't even talk about this. We all want to look really cool and nice on social media, but
fuck.
fuck, we are dying inside.
Dying. dying inside.
So how do you cope
absolutely.
with stress, Max?
A lot of ways.
Okay.
Natural-
Legal ways? Like, all right.
Uh,
legal ways.
legal. We don't have to talk about the legal
Okay,
ones.
alright,
We'll
go, okay.
talk about legal. That's for another show.
Okay.
So, in terms of stress, kasi, diba, normally when you start a business, you do something that you love.
Yeah.
But that adoration, that love for the business, at some point in time, when you get burned out,
Yeah. You hate it.
You start hating it.
Yeah.
So the goal to really keep doing what you're doing is to also give time for yourself, and really allocate some sort. It's not really distraction, but make time for other things you love to do.
Yep.
Okay, so one of the key things I love is music.
Music.
Yeah, you know this,
Yep.
Ron, from college. I was in a band.
Yep.
And you know my bandmates.
Yeah, so mariachi band to him being
Exactly. Yeah.
Cabron! No.
Yeah.
No, just, what
Bomba.
kind of music do you play?
I play a lot of jazz and reggae music. We do a lot. My bandmate Martin Malayali,
Yeah.
diba? We play a lot of John
He was
Mayer
my
songs.
classmate in one of those. He was actually my classmate too.
Oh yeah. Oh.
I failed algebra. He was my classmate.
Well, there you go, diba?
Shout out to you, Martin.
Actually, Martin's supposed to be a higher batch, so
Yeah.
but he, for some reason, he was in my
Irreg,
batch.
yeah.
There you go.
It's all good. You know, at the end of the day, look at him now. I think he's doing very well.
Really well. I love that guy, and he's gonna get married soon, by the way.
Congrats.
Anyway, so ayun, I make time for music, and like right now, I still write songs.
Nice.
I write original songs.
Payables, do your payables.
Receivables to cash. Di ba? Ganon, di ba? So, I do a lot of, I do music and I do poetry.
Wow.
I also write,
Nice.
like articles. You've seen my articles in
Yep.
Manila
I
Times.
look forward to that all the time.
Yeah, every Sunday, guys,
Yes.
Manila Times. Check out my
Shout out.
articles. Magellan Fetalino. di ba?
Yes.
You have to really allocate time to do other things.
How much time though? That's a question because.
Now that is a relative question.
Okay.
It
All right. Now for
depends
you,
on-
at least on your end, how much time do you need to recharge?
Okay, talking about me, I allocate at least 2 to 3 hours a day
2 to 3 hours a day.
to do something different. If I work 12 hours a day, 2 to 3 hours of that is for doing the other things I love.
Feed your soul.
Feed my soul.
Yeah. Okay.
That's the best way to describe it. It's about keeping your soul happy.
Yes. For me, that's again. I told you about this. There's only one word, 2 letters. 2K. NBA 2K.
There you go. Well,
Or I go to sleep. I ball out.
I play my
Cyber League.
2K when I'm in the toilet.
Yeah.
While pooping.
I'm a gamer, so I PS4 is life.
There
I
you
bring
go.
that around all the time. So if I don't reply to you, it's not because I'm sleeping or anything. I'm in my game. Don't fuck with me right now.
Exactly.
So 2 to 3 hours a day. Weekends though, is that wholly for you? Do you literally disconnect, or are you semi-reachable or passively reachable too?
In my case, I guess it's more semi.
Okay.
Because there's just so many things happening
Correct.
on a day-to-day basis,
Yeah.
and I just want to make sure I'm up to speed.
Yep.
I have that like addiction, and I want to be up.
Yeah.
I want to know what's going on
You're,
all the time.
You're obsessive. OCD.
Super- So even if my weekends are like are sacred to me,
Yes.
like as much as possible, I try to utilize that time with my family
Yes.
and my loved ones
I totally agree.
and my friends. But at the same time, just like I allocate time to be aware of what's going on.
That's awesome. Okay. Now, Mags, we again going back to my question earlier. What's your daily grind like? Is there? Are you a routine type of guy? Are you like more spontaneous? Well, how do you get your flow on a daily
Okay,
basis?
so that's a quite interesting question because my weakness actually
Yeah.
is following a routine.
Oh, so you like spontaneity?
I do, but I
Okay.
mean it doesn't work really well, especially in a business.
Okay.
Diba? Wherein you have to make sure you do things in a uniform way,
Okay.
di ba, paulit-ulit.
Yeah.
So how do I like resolve that issue? So I like being spontaneous.
Okay.
But at the same time, I have like my I have like my I have some sort of like security measures.
Got it.
So for example, one of my key staff would always make sure I'm on schedule
Okay.
with my meetings, and he books all of my meetings.
It's a dude.
He's a
That's
dude.
rare.
He's a
Sorry,
dude.
I'm not being sexist here.
And
But
guess
it's a
what?
dude.
Guess what? His name is Ferdinand.
Oh wow. Okay, Ferdinand Magellan.
Magellan,
Oh,
yeah,
there you
yeah.
go. Was that on purpose or that
No,
accident?
Actually,
Okay.
I just realized that a couple of days ago. Ang name namin bagay yun.
Yeah, as
Ferdinand
long as it's not lapu-lapu.
There
then,
you
yeah,
go.
You're
Yeah,
in the
yeah.
clear, bro.
Exactly. Ferdinand Magellan. And he pretty much he makes sure that the routinary work is done well
Okay.
while I continue with my like it's not really a habit, but because being spontaneous is that's how I am.
Well, are you a morning person type of guy, or you like?
Absolutely not.
Yes. Hey, fucking man.
Absolutely
Fuck mornings,
not.
bro. Like.
But I'm awake until 2, 3 a.m.
Yes. Yes.
doing the hustle.
True.
Yeah.
You're like a diesel engine. It takes
Yeah.
time to warm up.
Exactly.
But once you're in that flow, fuck everything else.
But I
Right?
mean, talk to me after 12. I'm in the zone.
Okay, cool.
Tangina, ganun.
But you know, in business, sometimes you gotta wake up and do an 8 a.m.
Of course.
Like no, like, okay.
Absolutely.
I literally, for me, I prepare myself and do. I like do a pep talk. Like you're gonna have to fucking wake up at 12 tomorrow. At 8 a.m. You can do this. Like
Exactly. Like alarm clocks don't work on me.
No.
So I need someone to wake me up talaga.
Yeah.
Ganun talaga siya. And then when I wake up, syempre, di ba, if you have a meeting at 8 or 9 a.m.
Yeah.
When I'm forced to wake up for those, I really have to pump myself up. So I
Okay.
play really loud music. I drink like 4 cups. Sobra naman. 2 cups
Chill
of
out,
coffee.
okay?
2 cups of coffee. And then I have this routine like I try to think of myself as a warrior.
There you
parang
are.
My hoorah moment ako. So parang, woo! Parang gano'n.
There you go.
Rah! Something
Okay,
like
you're sorry for that. If I'll just edit the sounds on.
that. Too much. Parang ganun.
Wow, we got a warrior in the house,
There you
people.
go.
All right, Warrior Magellan is in the house. Okay, Max, you talked about being a warrior, right?
Yeah.
When you're down in the dumps and you're just like, well, what are those instances in Acudeen where it's like a near-death experiences? How did you bounce back from that?
We had a lot of those.
Yeah.
Especially in the early days. My God. I mean, I think bouncing back. It's all about the determination,
Yep. The grit.
the grit of the person. No? Anybody can bounce back.
Right.
Anyone
You
can
gotta
do that.
decide.
It's a decision you have to make.
Right.
It's either you feel pity on yourself, and
Sob, whatever.
di ba? You spend days and days not
Yeah.
doing anything and having being sorrowful, or you can do something about it. Because any problem can be solved. It's just in your what matters is how determined are you to
Sure.
solve it.
How did you do that for you? At least like well, how do you have a measure? Like for me, you mentioned warrior, and it ticked a little thing in my brain. When I'm really down in the dumps, I have this go-to song, bro. And that
Oh,
go-to song is
damn.
"Warrior Is a Child"
Oh,
by
damn!
Gary Vee. Dude, I just empty the fucking tank. I cry.
shit.
I cry.
Yeah.
And after that, that's when there's so much negativity in you, and you just gotta empty it out. Now there's room for positivity to come in.
Absolutely.
What's your formula for that?
So my formula is I want to get the bad vibes out of my system.
Okay.
So that's one thing we're similar. That's similar between you and me. I also usually I like pump myself up with music.
Yeah.
I do a lot of John Mayer.
Yes. Oh.
Borderline Sam Smith.
Okay,
Like,
there you go.
Yung mga medyo emo, emotional.
Vibrato shit.
Diba?
Okay.
So I do a lot of that.
Okay.
Just try to get it out of my system, and then I do sports.
Yes. By
I
the
do
way,
sports.
that's one thing
Yeah.
if there's one thing I commend Mags a lot, he has this this consciousness that he puts his team. So I play basketball with him a lot. That's how I usually talk to him. And it's not just his teams. Like, aside from the basketball, they also do badminton. So
We do, yeah,
wellness
exactly.
in startups, because we slog through more than 8 hours a
Oh
day.
yeah,
Right?
dude. Exactly.
It's a good
Yeah.
outlet.
So a lot of these guys are stressed, and
Yeah.
I think that's also important in being a leader. You have to be self-aware of what's
Yeah.
happening with your people.
Right.
So you have to give them that outlet as well.
And be reachable, be human to them.
You
That
have
you're
to be
not
human.
a deity. or
Exactly.
whatnot.
You're not God, you are.
Yeah,
The world does not revolve around you.
correct. That you're one of them.
Exactly. And the more you reach out to the people you work with, the more they become very loyal to you.
Absolutely. And that's just, and it's not even the goal. It's that friendship. It's just like any
yeah.
type of relationship. You have to nurture it.
Exactly.
Right. That's pretty awesome. Max, just a couple more questions. In terms of tips, just if you were talking to your younger self per se, what are the things would you say, like, all right, Mags, or if you want to talk to them in Spanish, and that can be good too. But now, what were the things that you would say to a person that want to grow their own tech startup, both skill wise and I guess emotionally wise and whatnot? What were the things that you would tell them to do?
Okay, skill wise, sige, let's start with skills. Number one, coming from the guy who failed accounting 3 times, know your numbers.
Yes.
You have to fucking know your numbers.
Yep.
Diba? Number 2, skill wise, learn leadership.
Leadership.
People call it a soft skill, but for me, that's like the most important skill that you need to have. You need to know how to lead people the right way. So yeah, those are the 2 things. In terms of like other tips, you have to remember that in terms of like building a company, you have to surround yourself with the right people. The people who's really gonna help you with your mission and your vision, who's gonna lift you when you're in your downest moment.
Yep.
Diba? So it's very important. If you have the right support, the right people around you, even in the worst scenario the worst part of your life, diba?
Yeah.
You know for yourself that
And
you
it's
can
just
rebound.
actually what's unfair sometimes with us too, as entrepreneurs. We get put in a pedestal sometimes, but they don't know that we fuck up a lot.
Exactly.
And we're just so lucky because we have the right people behind us.
Behind
And
us,
they
exactly.
actually deserve more credit than we do.
Us. Exactly.
We just look good because they do their job so well.
Exactly.
Right.
So, and I think going back regarding that, it's about humility.
Yes.
You always remember you're not the center of the universe.
Yep.
The world does not revolve around you. So stay humble and just be yourself.
Who shall start up on? I mean, it's easier now compared to how it was. I started 2012. I didn't know shit about startup. I didn't know startups exist back then, or the term startup was being used. Who shall budding startup on? If you have it, say for example, I have an idea, whatever. What type of people should I approach, and what type of people should I look for, and what should I do?
You need to sometimes you'll know if you're talking to the right person if they really take the time to listen to you.
Okay.
Because I think everybody would have rough ideas, diba? And everybody can be skillful.
Yep.
Everybody can be talented. But if you're looking for the right people to work with, one key aspect that you have to be observant about is, are they actually listening?
Yeah.
Do they understand you?
Or they're just like being cute, or like whatever.
Exactly. And
Okay.
I think you can easily figure that out.
Okay.
Malalaman mo kaagad.
All right. Thank you very much, Mags. I wish we had more time, but for now, this is it. But I'm pretty sure we're going to have you back. Please do invite people to visit Acudeen, or if there's businessmen listening to this podcast, please do invite them over.
Sure. So, if you're an SME and you need access to financing and you have receivables that are not getting paid on time, please come and visit our website. We'd be more than happy to help you. www.acudeen.com. That's spelled ACUDEEN. So visit us. We have a lot of people waiting to help you guys out. And on the other hand, if you want to check out my articles, please look for Magellan Fetalino in Manila Times.
There you go.
A lot about business and
Every Sunday, correct?
management. Every Sunday.
So go to your newspaper stand and get that thing and
Exactly.
read that in
or
hard
go
paper.
online.
Or go online.
Just Google it.
No, again, thanks, Mags. It's been a pleasure having you here in the very first episode of Hustleshare. And again, we look forward to having you back. Gracias.
Muchas gracias, Ron.
Adios.